Welcome back to another episode of the Fruitful 3 show, where we don't just talk about living, we talk about living fruitfully. Yeah, baby. And today we are your host, Levi and Isaiah, and we're going to dive straight into something that is absolutely frying people in 2025. Burnout culture.
Yeah, buddy.
Now, I want you to picture this. Imagine your energy as a battery. Some days you're charged up, laser focused, creative, engaged. Other days you're running on fumes. You're depleted. Maybe you're already in full burnout mode, numb, empty, just trying to cope.
You know what? I got an alternator, man. I stay charged all the time.
Wired, bro. We've all been there, right? But here's the thing, burnout isn't just about being tired. It's about how our culture, our habits, and even our thinking patterns keep draining our batteries faster than we can recharge. And today we're breaking that down with psychology, philosophy, theology, and every other ologies, even some Bruce Lee wisdom. That's right. I've been reading a Bruce Lee book, so I had to throw some wisdom in it. But first, we got to kick it off, The intro, baby. And, well, I guess Levi has the merch. I also have some new merch.
Oh, snap.
Oh, yeah. If I can. Bam, baby.
Here, I'll help you out.
Yeah, look at that. New merch.
Wait.
The hood's in the way, bro. New merch. There's the bag. That one doesn't have a bag.
There ain't nothing on the back. Sorry, homies.
If you can spot my mistake that I have, I did go ahead and fixed it. It is correct on the website. Otherwise, you can go. I even updated the picture to the hoodies for this year. So stay warm and comfortable this fall, because it is officially here on Monday, and that means the weather will be getting cooler. So head over to iceentertainment.net/drip to stock up on all the proper gear to get ready for the fall and winter. We provide hoodies, long sleeves, beanies, and more at iceentertainment.net/drip, or the link is in the description. Aren't these soft and comfortable, buddy?
Yeah.
They're absolutely amazing. If you wore a large, I'd give you one, but I know you don't.
I don't, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In all honesty, what I really need is XLTs.
XLTs.
Like, XL shirts
Yeah.
are perfectly fine. They're just not long enough.
There you go.
Like, apparently I'm weird.
I'm the same way. I'll get some shirts, and every brand is different, because I'll get some shirts and they'll be like a crop top on me, and it's like, oh my goodness.
And see, like, XL sweatshirts, like, they'll fit me, but it's like when I move my arm, like, my sleeves will get pulled up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I almost gotta go 2X just to have, and they're a little baggy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, but just to get the arm length, I gotta go 2X.
But all my hoodies and all my t-shirts I've tested them on myself, I guess. And I mean, Christopher also has some t-shirts and he absolutely loves them, the last I knew. So anyway, let's dive into our burnout culture, shall we?
Oh yeah. Oh, by the way, before you get into this, I'm a little behind on this because we went through a bunch of notes during this whole thing. So if I act lost during this whole episode, there's probably a really good reason, because we did a lot of note taking and a lot of changing and editing in this whole process.
I originally created one script and then I was so lost. This was actually one of the most challenging scripts I have ever written in my life.
The problem is there is so many routes you could go with this. And so we wrote like different scripts, and then we did our research, and then we kept adding information and finally, this was kind of how our last put together deal. So
Mhm.
bear with us here because, like I said, there's just so much information on this that it is really hard to pack everything together in one episode.
Yes. Anyway, let's get started into the battery check, which is segmento uno. So let's start with some real talk. Are you burned out right now, Levi?
Not really.
Not really.
Like we haven't really started harvest yet, so
Nah.
I
Have you experienced burnout this year?
yeah.
Yeah. We'll let you have your story time here in a minute. Job burnout or life burnout?
There's more job burnout.
Job burnout. I'm the same way. So we're gonna kick it off with some personal stories. I'll let you go first.
Well, okay, so first of all, my job is focused around farmers and providing services to farmers. So, with that being said, is obviously, you know how farmers are. They work like 24/7, 365. Their job is really nonstop. So, my job per se is there's a lot of burnout in my job because like I said is you're constantly dealing with farmers. Then on top of it, some people may say I have too many irons in a fire, right? Because like on top of it, I last week I mentioned I've been in the guard or the Army National Guard. On top of that, I have responsibilities there. I also have like my nonprofit and I also have a family at home. So by the time you add all of those together, it is it gets like it's struggling. But on the bright side is the money that I earn. I have or my wife has the opportunity of staying at home and not going to work. So we are able to make enough money off of a single income. Granted, I work a lot, I'm gone a lot, and all that other stuff, and I'm probably burned out more than what most people are my age. But like I said, is my wife has the opportunity of staying at home with our daughter, and I would rather have that as a possibility, especially in today's culture and society.
I have two stories. A lot of people, if you don't know, I also make music, and I'm an independent artist, which is a struggle and a hassle itself because you do the promoting, the mixing, the mastering, the whole business side of it, and marketing side, and whatever else you want to throw in there on independent artists. And I was doing very well, releasing a beat per week, on Spotify. And well, Spotify decided to change some stuff.
Gotta love it, don't you?
Yeah. And well, I was actually making good money, starting to make good money, and I had like 1,500 listeners, monthly listeners all the time.
There you go. No
And
more hitting a nail for you.
well, there was, because whatever Spotify did took my 1,500 monthly listeners to 100 listeners within 2 days. Don't ask me what they did, and now I make.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't make jack anymore. So I am quite upset. I don't do none of that stuff. I just try to do the simple living. And so I kind of got frustrated because I was hitting up. Well, I got tagged 2 times for a suspicious activity for botting basically, and I told them no, I wasn't doing that. And one of my songs got taken down and I had to re-upload it. I talked to them. So that was easy. The other time, nothing happened. They just sent me, and I told them I used the tools you sent me the last time, and this is clearly you're playing with me. So that happened, and then a couple weeks later, bam, this happened, and I hit them up, and still have no response on what happened. So I am quite upset with it, but it kind of put me in a position where even though I love music, I just kind of was like, burnt out from it, and I took a little break. I mean, I still produce daily, but I haven't released anything.
I know a few band members and a few people who have bands, and I will see if they can possibly use your stuff for you. Try to get you back on the market somehow. But
I've
screw Spotify.
I've already gone through and I have document contract out with a YouTuber that, well, not a
Jake Paul?
YouTuber, no, with I should say a streamer that is going to start using my music, and hopefully that will start increasing viewership there. But I'll probably start releasing music here later on this year, at the end of the year. So
It just sucks when you get burned out though. Like, I'll be honest with you. Well, I mean, we're probably gonna talk about that later, but it sucks. Like it drains. Like it drains you. Like you have no motivation whatsoever.
you're just constantly tired. So my story number 2 is my actual job, my 9 to 5. I do construction, and well, the last year I've been working on this project that was supposed to be simple but has turned into hellacious nightmare kind of.
Is this your house or is this another project?
Which house?
The
On
the
East
house-
Street?
Yeah, the house you were building.
No, this is
Oh,
this
Okay.
is the one we started a year ago. Well, the one on East Street's also a nightmare.
I was gonna say the one on East Street seems like it's taking forever.
Yeah,
That's why I had asked.
that's also been a nightmare. So we have 2 projects that are being nightmares right now, and they've both been going on for like a year. And I mean, it's fine. It was fine, but now that I have to deal with the homeowners like every day, it kind of gets irritating, and I get burned out easily. I'm not a very sociable person, and when you say something that just doesn't float the boat, you don't have to comment on everything. You can just look at it, you can ask your question, you can walk away, whatever. But yeah, I'm just kind of burnt out because of that. Now, when I was in the office earlier this summer, in the shop and everything, that was fine because I was by myself and had no cares or worries in the world. I just had my projects to work on, and that was it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was fine then. But now that I'm back out in the field pretty much every day, I am burnt out.
So like, let's put it this way. We'll give you a definition of burnout here in a little bit, but like Isaiah is using the word burnout when the real word he should be using is stress.
Yeah.
Because I mean, okay, so first of all, I can relate to that because like when I was turning wrenches as a mechanic before I went out on my own and before I turned it into a nonprofit, I can tell you, and there's even people in that I do work for in my nonprofit that completely stress me out because I would say I'm a social person, but being a social person compared to being a professional, those are like 2 different things because you can go to a bar or go hang out with your buddies and be a social life and everything else, and then you got to flip the switch and be a professional. Like I guarantee if you ever hear like Isaiah and I talk outside of here, there's probably things we say that's probably unprofessional. Yeah. But I'm saying there's probably stuff on like we say with our buddies and stuff like that that's probably unprofessional. But when we get in front of people, we try to be as professional as we can. And so I know that side of it. And there's a lot of people out there who don't truly understand how things work. And you try to talk to them. Like I can tell you one, I used to coach Pee Wee football, would piss off a lot of coaches, excuse my language, and parents because I did not believe in the last name at that age. Like to me, when you're in like junior leagues, the deal is you're supposed to be teaching them fundamentals and everything else and who cares if they're a big kid, they're a small kid, you don't know what's going to happen like 4 or 2, 3, 4, whatever years from now, right? So it's like I said, it's really hard when you're dealing with people who constantly want to change things, or they're constantly trying to think you're ripping them off. And unfortunately, nowadays, there's a lot of people out there who take advantage of people. And so the professional people who try to do the right thing, who have like the integrity and the honesty and stuff like that, who are trying to do what's right and get the job done right, so there aren't any comebacks. They're the ones that are getting burnt out more than anybody.
So join the conversation in the comments down below, or, go start it on social media or whatever, wherever you want. Or if I have a clip that I want to start, maybe I'll start the convo, you know? But anyway, join or start it, have fun with it. I'm giving you your creativity right there. So let me give you the definition of burnout. This is a mix of Levi's and my definitions. We had two definitions and his was a little longer.
I went a little bit more. I went a little bit more in depth.
I just went to Google and asked what burnout was, So it's a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged or excessive stress. But it's more than just that, more than that. Burnout occurs when stress becomes chronic and overwhelming, stripping away your ability to feel engaged, motivated, or satisfied. It's not just workplace stress, it can happen in any high demand environment.
So like you can get burned out just by just being a husband, father, wife. What I mean, you can get burned out just doing anything.
Facts. So let's break down this battery chart that I have. So if you are focused, you're steady, normal sleep, good eating habits, positive and engaged, you're rested, thriving, feeling generally happy and productive.
So Isaiah mentioned this is like a battery. So picture like you're focused is like you are 100% on a battery level. So like when your phone, like when you open up your phone, or after you just get done charging your phone and it says 100%, it's gonna last a while. I mean, that's a good way of looking at it.
So next step, we have functioning. You're okay, but you've got up and downs, some stress, but manageable. You might notice periods of fatigue or irritability, but you're still functioning normally overall.
So this is the prime example of like you're pretty much just going through the motions.
Yep.
You're not really there, you're not really engaged, you're not really focused, you're just doing what you have. You're faking it till you make it, practically.
Next one, we have overworked. Now we're seeing tension, headaches, anxiety, dread creeping in, increased irritability, feeling mentally drained, disrupted sleep patterns. This is where frequent tension, headaches, and muscle tightness start showing up. So, I mean, yeah, there's overwork. Depleted, fatigue, poor sleep, hopelessness, no motivation, chronic exhaustion, lack of enthusiasm, and a feeling completely disengaged. You might find yourself with insomnia, oversleeping, poor appetite, or overeating.
Okay, so
you're kind of lost in a different world that's not here.
Okay, so one thing in here is the lack of enthusiasm. So we do a lot of training in the guard of like trying to figure out people's character, right? So like if we tell something, like, so we can tell if something's off with somebody, because us as leaders, we have to know our soldiers, and if something's off with our soldiers, we have to figure out like why are they, like, what's going on in their life and how can we help them. So like one of those things is like if you notice an employee or a friend or anything like that, like let's say they like playing video games, or they like working on cars, or they like making beats or something, and next thing you know, all of a sudden they just have no enthusiasm for whatever hobby they have, they just don't want to do anything. To me, this would be the perfect opportunity to reach out, ask them like, "Hey, are you okay?" Because the next step is one of those things that's really hard to get out of, because once you hit the burnout stage, you could be in that stage for a while, unfortunately, because it is one of those hardest things. So, like I said, if you notice they are depleted, reach out to them, try to do that before they hit this next stage.
So, burnout, as Levi mentioned, complete exhaustion, numbness, depression, inability to cope, full emotional detachment, despair, and feeling completely empty inside. At this stage, you might experience chronic illness, severe fatigue, depression, or even anxiety disorders. So, Levi, where are you on this chart?
Where am I?
Yeah,
I mean, as of right now.
where are
So
you? Where you at? Huh?
so after today, I am probably on focused.
Because it's Friday.
Actually, there's been nothing really going on at work right now. So with that being said, is I took the day off to spend time with family.
There you go.
And I mean, granted, there was a few things that went on today that were stressful. I mean, we had there's a few things we didn't see eye to eye on. So I mean, we had to talk it out and everything else. But for the most part, I'd say I'm fully charged after today.
I'm functioning. I'm typically always in functioning. Sometimes 100% focused, but I'm typically functioning.
I would say probably 90, 95 or higher percent of everybody out there is probably on functioning.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes it drops. Sometimes it goes up, you know? So anyway, let's move on to segmente 2. The numbers. Now let me hit you with some numbers that'll blow your mind. According to recent studies.
Good old statistics here.
This is all from Forbes.com. So yeah. 81% of 18 through 24-year-olds in the US are burnt out. 83% of 25 through 34-year-olds, the so-called prime working years, are burned out. And even 49% of people over 55 say they are burned out. I know my coworker is pretty much burned out, but yet he still functions.
Yeah.
He is a functioning burnt out.
Okay, so before we get into this, like the reason these are so high is because like there's I don't know how to word this exactly, but there are so many things out there that stress us out nowadays. I mean, vehicles are very expensive, housing are expensive, minimum wage isn't where it's supposed to be. And so I think a lot of it is financial stress, personally.
I have a video. I'll add this in later.
How millennials and Gen Z just don't care about work.
Bro, what is there to care about?
Exactly.
Work used to mean something. Now it's just a scam with extra steps.
Back in the day, you could work one job, support a family, buy a house, and still have money left over for vacations. Now you work 3 jobs, can barely afford fucking avocados.
And they wonder why we're not motivated. What's the reward? Working 40 hours a week just to afford a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 roommates?
They'd be like, nobody wants to work anymore.
Yeah.
No, Todd.
Fuck you,
Nobody
Todd.
wants to work themselves into an early grave for a company that gives pizza parties instead of raises.
My dad worked at a factory for 30 years and retired with benefits. I worked at a company for 6 months and they sent out a mass email saying I was replaced by a robot.
These jobs really expect loyalty without zero security. They'll fire you over Zoom call with no warning.
And don't even get me started on wages. Minimum wage in 2003 could pay for rent. Minimum wage now? I could barely afford a fucking burger on the dollar menu at McDonald's.
My card declined once at a Goodwill. A Goodwill!
And don't forget, they expect us to have a degree, 5 years of experience, and be available 24/7 for
Fuck that.
$17 an hour.
We're like a family here. Oh, so you won't pay me fairly? But you'll guilt trip me into covering shifts.
That's why I don't care, bro. If my paycheck barely lets me survive, then I'm working at survival effort levels.
Facts. Work smarter, not harder. And definitely not for free.
Now let's go be financially reckless for the sake of our mental health.
Let's do it.
Okay, so on there, and I've probably said this story before several times on here, but it's still one of those stories that strikes home. But he mentioned that they want people to have a degree. So I know a Navy veteran who, when he retired from the Navy, he was an electrician in the Navy. And when he retired, he had all of his certificates. He had years of experience working on Navy ships, so on and so forth. Like he basically, by the time he got out, on paper, he was an experienced electrician because of what the Navy provided for him to do. When he got out of the Navy, he went to get a job at a local electrician. I don't know, what are they called? Electrician shops, or
Pretty much.
basically tried to be are they called linemen's? Is that what they're called?
I guess.
I think, yeah. Don't quote me on that. Go Google that. But he tried to get a job as an electrician in the real world. Well, they told him too old, and two, he never had a degree in it, and so they wanted some young kid who had a degree in the field compared to some guy who had like 20 years of experience working on Navy ships. I'm sorry, but if you can work on a Navy ship and you have all your certificates and the Navy sent you to schools to get certified in certain fields, I'm sorry, but you should be, you are going to have a lot more knowledge than a kid fresh out of college. So that to me is kind of strikes home every time, because you don't need a degree to have experience.
Now, before we go further, let me clarify something important. When we say burnout in these statistics, we're talking about the level of burnout, not necessarily severe cases. But even at 49%, that's nearly 1 in 2 older workers feeling some level of burnt out. And women and workers in high pressure industries often report even higher burnout rates across all age groups.
Okay, so what Isaiah is talking about here is, earlier on we mentioned the stages of burnout, right? So there's certain levels of burnout before you actually hit the true burnout stage. So these statistics were taken from who were not, anything from focused. Focus is like you're 100%, you're energized, you're enthused and everything.
This is
So
everything
basically,
95% and lower.
yeah, I was gonna say. So once you got out of the focused category, this is where your statistics started coming in to play.
That's not just personal struggle, it's a cultural epidemic. And here's why: younger workers are getting hit harder. They have less job control or stability, heavier workloads with tight deadlines, lower pay while living costs keep rising, and constant digital connectivity that completely blurs the boundaries between work and life. Older workers report less burnout because they have more job experience and autonomy, more stable schedules and work-life boundaries, and better coping strategies they developed over time.
So the difference here is what Isaiah is saying is, so if you're a fresh kid out of high school, college, like 18, 19, 20 years old, you get into the workforce. Nowadays, they're not offering the benefits that they used to back in the day. So a lot of your older workers, like, I don't even know if I'd say me in my 30s, I would probably go higher than me, like 40s or 50s. Those guys, they started off with a lot more benefits. Minimum wage was a lot more stable back then. There wasn't like inflation and there wasn't high price stuff. So with that being said, is those guys, they have the years behind them that they were able to create the stability that they have today and use those benefits to create what they have today. And so that is why they're not as burned out, because they have something. They were able to save money back then and build a financial blanket for times like this. And nowadays it is so hard to create an emergency fund.
Let's talk about what burnout actually does to you, because it's not just feeling tired. This is Levi's notes. Mental health impact. Burnout leads to chronic feelings of sadness, helplessness, and worthlessness that clinical depression territory. The stress manifests as anxiety, creating this vicious cycle where you're stressed about being unable to manage tasks, which creates more stress and fatigue. Your memory gets foggy and you can't focus. Decision making becomes impossible. Your cognitive function just breaks down.
So yeah, I mean, to me that's pretty explanatory, because basically you just your mental health is not there. So you have your mind's not functioning right. So some people might say you have like ADD or ADHD because of how disorganized you are.
Or some people will be like, why are you daydreaming? You know, that also
Yeah.
happens.
So I mean, it's
You build a world of your own fantasy to make your life better.
yeah, and mental exhaustion is not fun, but it can also lead to something worse, which is physical health impact.
Yeah.
We're talking chronic tension that leads to constant headaches and muscle pain. Your sleep gets completely disrupted by anxiety and stress, which leads to more fatigue and cognitive impairment. But here's the scary part. Chronic burnout significantly increases your risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, and even stroke. Your body is literally breaking down under the sustained stress.
So what he's talking about is cortisol, which is a hormone in the body, and when it spikes, it actually is kind of toxic to the body. So you want to keep your cortisol lower, and that would mean trying to prevent stress as much as you can.
Yeah. So the easy way of preventing this, or the easiest way to prevent this, is when you start to realize that you have mental stress and things are starting to take a toll on your mental health. If you don't fix that during the mental stage, it's eventually going to start breaking down the physical part of your body. So because like, how do I word this? Mental is like, it's in your head. Like, you have thoughts, you have everything else. You can get rid of those thoughts by focusing on something healthier, something that inspires you to do things, and eventually your body is going to get healthier. But if you keep dwelling in that mental state, your body is eventually going to go, well, I can't do anything. And it's just eventually your body's going to decide it's going to break down.
This is why some young people look like they're 30s or 40s or their midlife that are in their 20s, early 20s, and the reason why some people in their 50s look like they're 30 because, you know, they didn't have much stress in their life, or they figured out how to get rid of the stress when they were impacted with stress.
So the sad, I wouldn't say the sad part, but there's a lot of medication out there for anxiety, depression, and all this stuff to help you. There's also, the reason I was going to say the sad part is the numbers of people who are using this medication. The statistics of these people, I don't know the exact statistics because I don't remember them, but there's a high percentage people using that are on anxiety pills and antidepressants and everything. And the problem with that is your body is solely dependent on that. And some of those have actually been proven that it can cause physical damage later on down the road. So, I mean, be very, very, if you need it, go and get the support that you need. And I'm not discrediting any of that stuff. Like I said, if you need it, go get it because it will help you, but be very, very cautious at what you do and be cautious of the medication to make sure there is not a lifelong side effect that could actually hurt you later on down the road.
Next up, we have relationship impact, and this is what people don't talk about enough. Burnout destroys your relationships. You become isolated, frustrated, unable to engage with family, friends, and colleagues. It leads to conflicts with the people you love most because you just don't have the emotional capacity to show up for them.
Yep. So that one is once again pretty explanatory, but how do I word this? Like being okay, so I understand like being married and everything. Marriages are stressful. And nowadays the divorce rates are so high and everything else. And I think the reason the divorce rates are so high right now is because both people are burned out and they just can't deal with each other's differences. I mean, because the whole point of you getting married was you are two people who became one person basically. And I understand there's going to be ups and downs throughout that whole thing, but you gotta be mature on it, and you also have to like, gosh dang it, now I lost it. But be mature and be able to cope with differences as well. And that's not just marriages. There's a lot of people out there who are quitting jobs because bosses have a high demand for them or high expectations, and they feel like they can't ever reach them. And so they're like, basically, screw you, and you're being a prick, and I'm going to go somewhere else, when all it is they see potential in you, and they're trying to reach the utmost potential.
We're always taught in life to dream big, you know?
Yep.
But if you're going to dream big, you have to do the work yourself if you want to achieve
doesn't-
that big dream. Don't throw that big dream on someone else trying to accomplish it for you. Otherwise, you're just going to create the stress and create that relationship indifference.
And there, you have to be really, really disciplined if for your dreams to create those dreams. There's there's a lot to it. And if you talk to like any professional business person, right? And I mean, this is just like if you're dreaming of owning your own business, they will tell you is expect to be broke the first 3 to 5 years. So with that being said, is can you only imagine how much stress that puts on a new business owner? And now you look at today's society, that is 10 times more stress than what it was 20, 30 years ago. So you gotta look at that too. And you gotta look at, are you willing to take the risks? That's the big question.
So, what drives this epidemic burnout culture? And I want to paint you two pictures here. Picture one, burnout culture, busyness over impact, endless availability, Slack at 10 p.m., emails on weekends, productivity equals exhaustion, leaders who normalize burnout. I've worked through vacations, so should you. Recognition without real support.
Okay, so a prime example of this, I will give you a prime example, is our location manager, right? He is on salary pay, which if you don't know what salary pay is, that's like a base pay for a year. So they say you're gonna make X amount of dollars, and every 2 weeks you get a paycheck, and by the time your paycheck is going to equal X amount of dollars at the end of the year, right? So with that being said, is they expect him to practically be on the clock 24/7 because he is salary. So technically they own him. So if they want to do a meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning, he has to be at a meeting at 6 o'clock in the morning. If they want to do one at 8 o'clock at night, or if they want something done by 10 p.m., you have to have like, hey, we need this turned in by 10 p.m. at night. He's not able to go into his office and just work an 8 to 5 and get done what he needs to get done. No, he's got to take that work home with him and try to get it done. So that's a prime example of that one.
Picture two, sustainable performance, impact over hours, clear boundaries, rest as a performance strategy, leaders who model unplugging, real recognition, and balance.
I have an example for this one too. So a few years ago, there was a business in New York, and I can't think of the business's name off of the top of my head right now. So Go look it up if you are interested in this. But what they did is they every Wednesday they had a paid day off. So you would show up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday you'd have the day off, you'd get paid for it, and then show up Thursday, Friday, and then you'd have the weekend off. What they noticed is when they did this, all of their employees' motivation went up, tasks got done 10 times faster. Like the whole experiment was a positive, right? So with that being said, is they figured out that, like, hey, if we give these guys a day off during the week, they're going to bust their ass rest of the time they're here, and they're going to be a lot happier, a lot more, because they're not totally in that 8 to 5 consistently. Unfortunately, the sad part is every job is open. I mean, okay, majority of businesses are open 8 to 5. So if you're working an 8 to 5 job, you either gotta go run your errands at noon, or you gotta take a little bit of time off early to try to go get something done. So that whole day, everyone was able to go like, hey, I need to go to the grocery store. I need to go do this.
I need to go to the bank.
Yep.
Also, it's kind of funny how people think, oh, you just got to keep on going. Got to keep doing this. That's how you get productivity. No, the real reason productivity gets done is through rest. And we'll look at that a little bit later on. I believe it is in our biblical section. So, yeah, we'll get through that a little bit later. And the results: burnout culture leads to turnover, disengagement, revolving doors, sustainable performance leads to innovation. Revolving doors. Sustainable performance leads to innovation, retention, and people actually thriving. It's not just about mental health, it's about survival. Now let's talk about brain science. So a couple years ago, I read this book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And if you want to feel like you're tripping on acid or some sort of drugs that I don't know for a couple weeks, go and read that book, because I read it in a course of 3 days. And for months after that, I was pretty much I could tell you which side of the brain I was using, or like when my subconscious would take over, or if my conscience was winning, or, system 1 and system 2 is basically how he defines it. It's a great book, very scientific, because a lot of the information went over my head. So, but I do recommend it. So he talks about system 1, which is thinking fast, reactive, intuitive, and system 2, thinking, which is slow, reflective, and deliberate. Burnout culture traps us in system 1, constantly reacting, emails, notification, deadlines, no time to breathe, no space to think deeply. All that just progress. But deep, fruitful living, that requires system 2, reflection, Sabbath, strategy, creativity, God-designed rhythms, like rest and Sabbath, to pull us into that slower, deeper space. Without it, we become shallow, reactive, and exhausted.
Okay, so during this week is obviously I've been seeing a lot of things about Charlie Kirk, because obviously he was shot, and so there's still a lot of videos that go around about him and everything else, and I don't think my feed is going to die down anytime soon. But there was one thing that Charlie did, or Charlie talked about in one of his movies, or one of his campus visitations to the people, and I believe this is actually a really, really good idea, and he implemented it into his life. But pick a day, any day you want, pick one day and shut off the TV, shut off your cell phones, shut off like everything electronic basically, and go do something as a family. Go outdoors. Don't have a care in the world about what time it is. Just
Mhm.
basically spend the day from sun up to sundown without a care in the world. And he said when he started implementing that into his family, everyone's mentality started changing, everyone's physical health started changing, everyone's attitude started changing. It was a positive, it was a, how do I word it? It was just positive across the board. That's just an idea. I'm not saying you have to do it into your life, but like I said, I saw that video and I'm like, man, that makes a lot of sense.
Now we're moving on to another book I read. We got books that I actually read in here, which is by Mark Manson, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He has a whole series on this, on the fuck series.
Is Mark Manson the guy who is like the big business person and he like,
No, that's Mark Cuban.
is it Cuban?
Yeah.
That goes
That-
to like high schools and stuff and doesn't care that he cusses at high schoolers.
Oh,
for-
maybe this is the Cuban's the business guy that's on Shark Tank
Oh.
that owns the Mavericks, and he owns a town in Texas.
I'm one. I gotta look him up here.
But anyway, Mark Mason puts it bluntly, you don't have unlimited energy to give. Burnout comes when you spend it on everything, every ping, every project, every demand. The wisdom is this: choose carefully what deserves your attention. Yes, that's very important. Jesus himself practiced this. He said no. Believe it or not, he did. He walked away from crowds. He withdrew to rest. He didn't heal everyone. He didn't answer every demand. He stayed focused on his mission. Let that sink in a little bit.
Also, if you think about it, we probably already talked about this once, but what did God do on the seventh day?
He rested.
So he spent 6 days building this whole entire earth and building humanity. And then on the seventh day, he's like, I'm done.
So the biblical wisdom on burnout. The Bible's packed with lessons on burnout. Take Elijah, for example, under the broom tree in 1 Kings 19. He's exhausted, depressed. Some even say he's cursing at God, praying for death. But God doesn't give him a pep talk. He gives him food, water, and rest. And guess what? He goes to sleep. He wakes up from his nappy, and by golly, he's in a better mood.
So in other words, so before we continue on with this, the Bible itself doesn't like mention anything about burnout or burnout culture, but what it does is there are several examples in here of people who are under heavy circumstances, heavy stress,
Burdens.
burdens, and God comes in and gives them rest and nourishes them somehow. And so we've taken a lot of these examples and we've put them into this section.
That's burnout is a new term, so that's the reason why it's not in the Bible, if you didn't know that. But
Thanks for clarifying that.
yeah. Sometimes the most spiritual things you can do is take a nap. Amen to that. The Sabbath in Genesis, God rested after creation, not because he needed to, but to model rest for us. Even God, who doesn't need rest, chose to rest, showing us that rest is fundamental to the rhythm of life itself. Okay, since this brought up, I was going to put that in the solutions. But now we have the 9 to 5 work week, the 5 days a week. And then now we have everything going on the weekends, and Sundays we have stuff going on, and Saturdays we have sports and activities and whatnot. So you don't have fully have a true day of rest. So in order to really have that true day of rest, you kind of have to take away a day of the work week or something.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that in the solutions part. Here's what most people miss. Burnout isn't just physical exhaustion. It's a spiritual battle. When we push ourselves too hard and neglect rest, we lose sight of God's purpose in our lives. We get so caught up in the doing that we forget the being. And this is, I think, the biggest reason why a lot of people don't have faith anymore is because they're got so caught up in the exhaustion that they don't have the faith that they can go out and do anything, or anything is impossible, you know.
I mean, even like based off of that note, is I've talked to missionaries, and it is so hard for them to even fund missionary missions that some churches just don't even try anymore. And there's a lot of people who want to be missionaries, and they go out and they can't raise enough money to do it. So that's another example of this too, is you need to there needs to be a way to have people achieve their dreams and do what they needed. I mean, if you want to be a missionary, you got to be able to somehow find the funds and stuff to do that.
Jesus withdrawing to pray. If even he needed boundaries and solitude, what makes us think we don't? In Matthew 11:28-30, Jesus offers rest to the weary and burdened. This isn't just physical rest, it's deep soul restoration.
You know, anything to add to that?
I have nothing.
Okay. Psalm 46:10 reminds us, "Be still and know that I am God." The Sabbath commandment in Exodus 20, verse 8-10 isn't a suggestion. It's God's design for humans to work diligently, but also take time to rest and reflect. Rest isn't optional, it's essential for our well-being. Okay, so since the 10 Commandments got brought up in this, earlier this week, I ended up getting a book, and it is basically not a catechism, but it's basically the documents that they used to create Martin Luther's catechism. It's all the original documents before then. You can follow the 10 Commandments. Just remember, the 10 Commandments does not get you into heaven. The whole purpose of the 10 Commandments was to realize that you needed a Lord and Savior, and you could not do this on your own. But one thing is, if you are not spiritual and you need a good structural basis to live your life, the 10 Commandments are probably the best thing to actually use as a guideline to live your life.
They also help create boundaries and
Yep.
and everything too.
So just remember, the sole purpose of it was to have humans understand that they could not get to heaven by themselves and they were true sinners. But like I said, is they are good guidelines for people to follow if you want to follow them.
Bruce Lee's flow wisdom. Yeah, buddy. So I started reading this book. I haven't finished it, but I got like 3 pages in, and while I was struggling to write the script for this, an idea popped in my head while I was reading this. So, find inspiration through literature sometimes. Here's what Bruce Lee comes in, or here's where Bruce Lee comes in. In the Tao Ajit Kun Do, he says, "Be water, my friend," which is forget everything you know, just flow and allow yourself to be liquid, basically. Don't try to do too much. Water flows, it adapts, it's powerful not because it resists everything, but because it moves with purpose. Burnout happens when we resist too much, grind too hard, and ignore our natural rhythms. Sustainable performance, it's water flowing, adapting, resting when needed, striking when it counts.
One thing I learned when we went to college, and it kind of stuck with me, is electricity is going to take the shortest path, right? So it's going to find the easiest flow through a circuit. So that's kind of the same thing like this, is if something gets cut off, it's not going to be able to have the path that it needs to go. So make sure you're willing to adapt to what you need to adapt to, but also be flexible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So here's how we can actually prevent, or well, not prevent, but fight.
I learned how to box in law school.
Did you?
If anybody can tell me the name of that movie down below,
yeah,
we'll give them a shout out.
Yeah. I'll personally tag you on Insta or Facebook or something, or on YouTube. Maybe I'll just tag you on YouTube. Who knows? So number 1 is set boundaries, which is obviously the hardest thing as a Midwestern that I have learned is saying no. No is a very powerful, and I have learned that the last couple years, and people will get pissed off at you when you say no, and they will try to persuade you, but you just stay true to the no, and you just keep knowing what you know. So say no.
Another good thing is, or I should say another good example of this is, if you ever watch the movie Yes Man, and he says yes to everything, and then all of a sudden he like doesn't know how to do certain tasks because they all overlap everything. If you want to have a movie or visualize something, then go watch Yes Man, and it will tell you how you need to set boundaries.
So establish clear lines between work and personal life. Learn to say no, as I just said. Set specific work hours and stick to them. It's harder to do with a 9-to-5 job, but Isaiah has a solution, which is me, because I wrote those notes. Since we're here, so I said, like, with sports and weekends being hectic now, everything's going on. You kind of have to take a day off of work. I started doing notes which are not in the script at all on like cultural background, like nations and countries and stuff like that, what they do. And I came across that the European nations, some European nations, I should say, work 3 to 4 days a week, and they have a very good work to life culture. So my suggestion is having like paid Fridays or taking Fridays off. And the solution to not, if they don't give you paid Fridays, upping what you get paid.
Your pay grade?
Yeah, your pay grade. Like, so basically if you take $15 or $15 is pretty much standard minimum wage. So if you times that by 40, you get 600. So you want to make 600 a week. So if you take away a day, you have only 32 hours left. So you pretty much add 4 in my calculations that I have figured. I mean, like when you do the math, when you do 32 divided by 15, no, not 15, you do 32 divided by 600 divided by 32, you end up with 18.75, which is close enough to 19, which is why I rounded up to 4. So, I mean, you're still getting paid the same amount you are per week, but you're not working, you're only working 4 days a week.
Yeah. So I can't remember the guy's name, but I watched this interview the other day, and it was an older gentleman, and he was talking about how the reason him and his wife are successful is because they say no to basically everything. Like, they don't go out and eat, they don't go to movies, they don't do this. They basically run a self-efficient farm. They grow their own vegetables, they grow their own food, they slaughter their own like pigs and cows and stuff like that. And they do that, and they don't go out into like, they don't, because nowadays with this go mentality, it's so easy to go spend 10, 15 bucks, whatever it is, for a meal nowadays.
It's more like 20.
Well,
unless you get fast food.
Yeah, I was trying to give an average. But yeah, so 10, 20 bucks on wherever you go. But now it's so much easier to go to like McDonald's and buy a meal and just continue to go instead of actually home cooked meals
that are more nutritious.
Yup.
Which leads us into prioritize self-care. Great transition, buddy. Engage in regular physical exercise, maintain a healthy diet, and practice mindfulness activities like meditation. These aren't luxuries, they're necessities that buffer stress and prevent burnout from taking hold.
So yeah, so back to the deal is you can go and you can go and eat fast food all you want, but that fast food is not putting the actual true nutrients in your body that it needs.
Yes, I practice exercise and healthy diet because I have found that I am in a better mood most of the time when I do that. And I feel more alive. Embrace rest and recovery. Take breaks, both short ones daily and longer extended ones. And here's what research shows: regular vacations or extended leaves actually help rejuvenate people and significantly reduce burnout risk. Studies prove that taking breaks improve long-term productivity and job satisfaction. Vacations don't guilt trip, they're productive and productivity investments. Honestly, I think all work should have like a retreat or something, just a whole vacation week.
Here's the problem with that. Oh, well, I won't say a problem, but you were talking about like companies should have like a retreat, right? A lot of companies do have retreats, but they're for like managers or salesmen or somebody that's way higher up who's sitting in an office doing this all day. They're not the ones out there actually doing the grunt work. They're not the ones, like I said, they're basically the quarterback of a team. They're the ones getting all the glory for how that company is ran, but the linemen at the end of the day are the ones getting the pizza parties and not actually the credit that they deserve. So that would be,
As I've told my coworker, they should just create a national skip work week for all the tradesmen, for all the hard workers. Like I understand healthcare workers, they have to still go to work, but and some other high grade people, but all the tradespeople, you just shut down the economy for like a week.
so also on this is, so something new our company is trying is with vacations is they're doing quarterly vacations. So there's 4 quarters in every year. So you get X amount of vacations for each quarter. I don't know if it's dependent on how many years you've been there or if it's a base or if it's base across the board. I don't know how they decided that. But it serves two purposes. One, if you are a new hire and you decide to quit in that quarter, they don't have to pay because they are required to pay out whatever vacation time you don't use. I mean, every job's that way. So if they tell you, hey, you have 2 weeks of vacation time, well, they have to pay out those 2 weeks, right? So let's say you have 2 weeks of vacation time in quarter one and that person quits, well, they're paying out those 2 weeks. But on the flip side is if you last in quarter two, now you have a month of vacation time. Or if you go into quarter three, you have a month and a half and then eventually 4 months. So it, at the end of the day, is it actually works because they want you to use your vacation time. They're trying to give you more vacation time so you can spend vacation time. The other thing is they're doing a payout option. So the only way you can get a payout option is if you use half of your vacation time or more, then whatever you don't use at the end of the year, they can pay you out as kind of like, I wouldn't say a bonus, but so what they're trying to do is they're trying to force you to use your vacation time. So I think a lot more places should do something similar.
I have one more note on this. Don't just doom scroll on your phone. Yeah, actually be bored once in a while. This actually is psychologically accurate. If you would actually like, if you are struggling with like a problem or something, go sit and stare at a wall and be bored, because you'll actually figure out a solution so much quicker than if you just go and play on your phone.
Okay.
And also it will boost like inspiration and everything, instead of you just scrolling on your phone and doom scrolling and wasting your life away.
I have two examples of this. For one is me personally. So every time when I was turning wrenches for as a everyday job, and even now, like there are problems I can't solve, and I sit there and I study and everything else, and I go through everything and I just can't figure it out. And then I decide, oh hey, I'm just gonna go like take a shower or go to bed or something, and then next thing you know, I'm laying in bed, and for some odd reason it clicks when I'm laying in bed. The other example of this is Andy Reid. Like everyone knows I'm a big football guy. Andy Reid has what he calls the midnight playbook. So Andy Reid literally has a chalkboard in his room, and he will wake up in the middle of the night and randomly draw out plays on this chalkboard, because he will like study something in defenses, or I mean during the game, or he'll be watching film, and all it is a bunch of notes and random plays and everything else that randomly clicks when he's in bed and he wakes up and jots it down. So I mean, if you have to do something like that, do it, so you at least have notes somewhere later on down the road.
Seek support. Reach out to friends, family, and mental health professionals for help. Social support plays a massive role in preventing burnout. Don't carry the load alone. Other people can offer valuable perspectives and coping strategies you might not see.
So what was the saying they always told us when we were growing up in high school is, if you like get it off your chest. And the reason they tell you that is when you sit there and you build things up and build it up and build it up, eventually you're going to explode. You're like a ticking time bomb. But there's been studies proven that if something is on your mind and you go to a friend and you're like, hey man, I just need a vent, and you vent for however long, you walk away from that like in a 10 times better mood, and more than likely you're like, I don't even know why I was mad in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that is the whole prime example of like, seek help, seek a friend. Just even if you got a vent, it'll make you feel 10 times better at the end of the day.
Adjust expectation. Here's the thing: unrealistic expectations and the pressure to be constantly productive contribute directly to burnout. Recalibrate those unrealistic standards. Accept that it's okay to take things slowly sometimes. This recalibration is essential for long-term mental health. That's pretty self-explanatory. Reflect on purpose. Reconnect with the meaning behind your work. When you lose your why, burnout follows fast. Yeah. With music, I was more focused on the money and I got burned out because I wasn't focusing on my art. So there's that.
And the other thing too, so like you can focus on the why so much, but also break down the why, because like Isaiah was saying, with like your higher expectations prevents a lot of pressure. If you sit here and you break down like your whys of, hey, this is like, why am I doing this? And if you give yourself reasons of why you're doing it, like I know a lot of people, they put like sticky notes on their mirrors in the day, or sticky notes on like doors or stuff like that, of little like motivational stuff throughout the day to keep them motivated. If you have to do that to keep your why so you can keep going and not burn out, do it.
Connecting with a larger sense of purpose gives you the emotional fuel to push through difficult times without burning out. Now we're going on to the biblical response to burnout. So let me give you a 4-part biblical framework for responding to burnout.
You want me to take this over since
Yeah.
this is technically my notes?
Yeah, I'll let you
All
have it.
right. So first, acknowledge the need for rest. God rested after creation, and we must also recognize our need for rest. Psalm 23, verse 1 through 3 reminds us that God, as our shepherd, leads us to rest and refreshes our souls. Secondly, surrender your burdens to God. Matthew 18, verse 28, and 1 Peter 5, verse 7 invites us to cast our anxieties on God. He cares for us and offers rest from our burdens. You don't have to carry everything yourself.
It's Matthew 11:28. You said Matthew 18:28.
Oh,
So I'm just gonna correct that right there.
fair enough. So, okay, so like we were talking about like seeking out friends. If you don't, I mean, you may not believe there is a God out there or even a higher power, but if you don't feel comfortable talking to a friend, just sit there and start talking, and I guarantee you God's gonna magically send you an answer. And if you don't believe in a higher power after that point, I don't know what to tell you. So thirdly, reflect on God's purpose. Burnout often comes from losing sight of our purpose. Jeremiah 29 verse 11 assures us that God has plans to give us hope and a future. When we're connected to his purpose, we're less likely to burn out on meaningless, busy work. In other words, if you have a dream, God doesn't care what's in your bank account. God doesn't care like about any of your situations. If he believes that you are the perfect one for that task, God will give you that dream. And there's a lot of people who don't go achieve that dream because they stress themselves out without everything. Sometimes you just got to jump.
Yeah. I moved to New York with literally nothing, and it worked out for me. So
Dude, I bought a truck and a house within the same year, and I literally went broke. But let's put it this way, my house, well, first off, my truck's completely paid off now. Basically, I still live in my house 6 years later and still able to pay rent. So, or not rent, but mortgage.
I mean, it's pretty much rent.
But I mean, it's crazy. Sometimes you just gotta jump, and whatever happens, happens. Fourth, trust in God's provision. Philippians, gosh dang it. Philippians 4 verse 19 assures us that God will meet all of our needs. Trusting him allows us to release the pressure of doing everything ourselves. So a prime example of that is, so with my wife being a stay-at-home mom and with me making enough money for her to have that opportunity to do that, there's also a lot of financial burdens that comes along, because if I go to a military school, I don't have the consistent flow of my work job. There's been times where we've been a month without pay because I decided to go to a military school and it screwed up our finances for a month. But I can tell you this is, no matter what happens, I've always prayed about it. I've always like asked God to, like, whatever happens, just make sure bills are paid on time, make sure we don't lose our house, and keep our family together. And it's always happened.
Mhm.
So it's just one of those things where it's like, once again, take the jump. Sometimes the fall is a rough fall down, but no matter how high you jump, you're going to land on your feet if you put your faith in God and trust him. Spiritual reflection and prayer. So from a spiritual perspective, rest isn't just physical recovery, it's soul renewal. God's rest after creation exemplifies how rest is a fundamental part of life. When we push ourselves too hard and neglect rest, we lose sight of God's purpose for our lives. Burnout becomes a spiritual struggle, not just a physical one.
I already I have my notes on here, but I already kind of went through that up above,
Okay.
which is why I think the world is so screwed up is with the lack of faith, because they're so focused on everything else that it takes away the spiritual side, and then you focus more on the man-made side of it.
Yep. While I was doing this research, I found a few prayers that seemed fitting to close out with, and personally, I figured this would be something different for us all. I don't know exactly, I'll be honest with you, I don't know exactly which prayer got put into this, but we're going to do something different on this show, and we're going to pray for every one of you. So if you want to log off right here, right now, you are welcome to. If you want to stay on and fold your hands, and I hope that this prayer will impact you in your life. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your example you've given us of rest. We are often weary, overwhelmed, and burdened. We ask for your peace to guard our hearts and our minds. Help us to embrace the gift of rest help us to embrace the gift of rest you've given us, and to trust in your provision and strength. When we're tempted to overwork and neglect restoration, remind us to come to you. We trust in your promises, Lord, that you are the shepherd, and in you we find the rest we desperately need. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, like I said, I figured I'd take a different route on this.
I saw it in the original script, and I was like, yeah, cool.
Well, the deal is like this is such a worldly thing. So the deal is like with everybody having burnout culture or experience some sort of burnout culture, it is our way of saying we care for you. And so I'm like, when I found this prayer, it was like, hey, I have to, like, something just told me I had to put this in there and pray for everybody out there to give them encouragement throughout their week.
All right. So now we're going to close this off. So I'm going to start merch. So go check it out, obviously, because it's cool. And I have hoodies. And so here's the bottom line. Burnout isn't just about exhaustion. It's about misplaced priorities, broken rhythm, and cultures that reward depletion over faithfulness.
Fruitfulness.
Or yeah, fruitfulness.
Either way, it works.
Or, yeah.
Man, you had a nice filler in there, man.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my goodness, I keep going up. But here's the
Isaiah's
good
getting
news.
trigger happy over here.
Yeah, I need to click somewhere. Here's the good news. We don't have to stay there. With psychology, philosophy, theology, and all the other ologies, and even martial arts, which is a lot of its Buddhism, wisdom, we can recharge our batteries, set boundaries, and live not just productive lives, but fruitful ones. So let me ask you this. What's your battery at today, and what's one thing you can do this week to recharge? I'd like to thank you all for tuning into the Fruitful 3 show. If this episode gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, fruitfulness beats burnout every time. Until next week, peace, love, happiness, and unity. Well, I'm out of here.
I'm out too. Later.